Imagine this. A seemingly ordinary day. People are going about their daily routines, unaware of the cosmic events unfolding above them. The sun shines brightly in the sky, casting its warm, golden rays over the landscape. It's a picture-perfect day, the kind that makes you want to bask in the sunlight. Suddenly a flash, an intense burst of light, brighter than anything you've ever seen. It's as if the sky itself has been set ablaze, a blinding spectacle that leaves you momentarily stunned. This, my friends, is no mere camera flash, it's a solar superflare, a catastrophic release of energy from our very own star. These superflares are rare but immensely powerful, capable of releasing more energy in a few seconds than our sun does in an entire year. And it's headed straight for Earth. This is not science fiction. It's a very real, very frightening possibility. Imagine the impact of such an event on our planet, a direct hit from a solar superflare. While our sun gives us life, it also possesses the power to unleash unimaginable chaos. The same star that nurtures us can also threaten our very existence with its volatile outbursts. A solar superflare is a force of nature unlike any other, capable of disrupting our technological civilization in the blink of an eye. Satellites could be knocked out, power grids could fail, and entire cities could be plunged into darkness. We've all experienced the warmth of the sun on our skin, but this is different. This is not the gentle caress of sunlight, but a violent, scorching wave of energy that could alter life as we know it. This is the sun's wrath, a cosmic tempest capable of plunging our world into chaos. The sheer power of a solar superflare is almost beyond comprehension, a reminder of the sun's dual nature as both a giver and a destroyer. The question isn't if but when we will face this celestial reckoning, and the answer might be sooner than we think. Scientists are constantly monitoring the sun, studying its patterns and trying to predict when the next superflare might occur. But despite our best efforts, the sun remains an unpredictable force, a ticking time bomb in the sky. To understand the threat, we must first understand our adversary. Our sun, though seemingly stable, is a roiling ball of plasma, constantly generating a magnetic field. Think of it as a cosmic dynamo, powering our entire solar system. But this dynamo can short-circuit. The result? A solar flare. These flares are common, often invisible to the naked eye. But a superflare? That's a different beast altogether. Imagine a regular flare, but amplified 1,000, even 1,000,000 times over. An explosive release of energy equivalent to billions of atomic bombs detonating simultaneously. That's the fury of a solar superflare. This energy, carried by a wave of charged particles, travels at nearly the speed of light, reaching our planet in a matter of hours. And when it hits hard, slamming into our atmosphere with the force of a cosmic sledgehammer. The consequences? Potentially catastrophic. The first sign of trouble wouldn't be visual, but rather, an electronic silence. Imagine waking up one morning to find your phone, your computer, and even your television completely unresponsive. No notifications, no updates, just an eerie quiet. This silence would be the harbinger of a much larger catastrophe. Communication systems reliant on radio waves would be the first casualties. The invisible threads that connect us to the world would snap, leaving us isolated. Radio stations would fall silent, and the internet would become a ghost town of broken links and error messages. Satellites, our eyes in the sky, would go blind, their sensitive electronics fried by the onslaught of charged particles. GPS navigation? Gone. Global communications? Down. These satellites, which we rely on for everything from weather forecasting to international banking, would be rendered useless, floating aimlessly in space. Our interconnected world would be thrown into disarray. People would wander the streets staring at their lifeless devices, unable to comprehend the sudden collapse of their digital lives. The sense of confusion and helplessness would be palpable, but the worst is yet to come. As the skies darken with ominous clouds, a sense of foreboding would settle over the world. The true scale of the disaster would begin to unfold. The electrical grid, the backbone of our modern world, would be next. Power lines would hum with an unnatural energy, and transformers would begin to overheat. The very infrastructure that powers our homes and cities would be under siege. Imagine a power surge, not just in your house but across entire continents. Lights would flicker and die, and electrical sparks would fly from overloaded circuits. The grid would struggle to cope, but it would be a losing battle. Transformers designed to handle a specific load would overload and fail spectacularly. Explosions would rock substations and plumes of smoke would rise into the sky. The damage would be catastrophic and widespread. Blackouts, widespread and long-lasting, would engulf entire nations. Cities that once glowed brightly would be plunged into darkness, with only a few scattered lights piercing the gloom. The silence and darkness would be overwhelming. The world as we know it would grind to a halt. Public transport would cease to function, and streets would be eerily empty. The hustle and bustle of daily life would be replaced by an unsettling stillness. Hospitals, reliant on backup generators, would be overwhelmed, Medical staff would struggle to provide care in the dim light of flashlights, and life-saving equipment would fail. The healthcare system would be pushed to its limits. Transportation systems would come to a standstill. Airports would be filled with grounded planes, and subway stations would be deserted. The movement of people and goods would be severely disrupted. Food storage, dependent on refrigeration, would fail, leading to shortages. Grocery store shelves would empty quickly, and spoiled food would become a common sight. The supply chain would be in chaos. The delicate fabric of our civilization would begin to unravel, thread by thread. Communities would be strained, and the social order would be tested. In the face of such a monumental crisis, the resilience of humanity would be put to the ultimate test. While a superflare of this magnitude hasn't yet occurred in recorded history, the annals of our past are filled with tales of solar storms that have left their mark on our world. Our planet bears the scars of past solar storms, each one a reminder of the sun's unpredictable nature and immense power. In 1859, the Carrington event, the largest solar storm ever observed, crippled telegraph systems worldwide. Operators received electric shocks, telegraph paper spontaneously combusted, and the world was left in awe of the sun's might. Auroras, usually confined to polar regions, painted the skies in vibrant colors. These dazzling displays were seen as far south as Cuba and Hawaii, places unaccustomed to such celestial phenomena. Fast forward to 1989, a smaller but still powerful solar storm struck again. This time, it knocked out power to millions in Quebec, Canada, plunging them into darkness. For 9 long hours, the city grappled with the challenges of a blackout, relying on candles and flashlights to navigate the night. These events serve as stark reminders of the sun's power, a force that can disrupt our modern lives in an instant. They offer just a mere taste of what a true superflare could unleash, a scenario that could dwarf these historical events. As we become ever more reliant on technology, our vulnerability to such solar phenomena only grows. Our interconnected world, with its dependence on satellites, power grids, and communication networks, stands on a precarious edge. Imagine the Carrington event, but magnified 100-fold. The potential scale of the threat we face is almost unimaginable. A superflare of such magnitude could disrupt global communications, knock out power grids, and cause widespread chaos. The question isn't if we're prepared for another Carrington event. It's, are we prepared for something far, far worse? Are our systems robust enough to withstand such an onslaught? As we look to the future, we must ask ourselves, are we ready to face the sun's fury? The echoes of the past urge us to prepare for the unknown. So, how likely is such a catastrophic event? The sun, thankfully, doesn't throw superflares around like confetti. Studies of sun-like stars suggest such events might occur only once every few thousand years, even tens of thousands. On the one hand, that's somewhat reassuring. On the other, it's a cosmic game of chance, and we're playing with loaded dice. Furthermore, our ability to predict these events is still in its infancy. We can monitor solar activity, yes. We can see sunspots, those dark blemishes that indicate areas of intense magnetic activity. But predicting when a superflare might erupt is like predicting an earthquake. We know the fault lines, but the exact timing remains elusive. The sun is a fickle beast, its moods difficult to decipher. We're constantly learning, refining our models, improving our understanding. But one thing is clear, the threat is real, and the stakes are incredibly high. Faced with such a threat, what can we do? Fortunately, we are not entirely defenseless. Hardening our electrical grid, making it more resilient to solar storms, is paramount. This means investing in surge protectors, developing early warning systems, and designing systems that can be quickly brought back online after a blackout. Satellite protection is another crucial aspect. Shielding electronics, designing redundant systems, and developing strategies for rapid satellite deployment can mitigate the impact of a solar storm. And of course, there's the importance of research, of understanding our star better, of unraveling the mysteries of solar flares, and predicting their wrath. But perhaps the most important tool in our arsenal is awareness. We must acknowledge the threat, understand the risks, and prepare for the worst. Because in the face of a cosmic storm, knowledge is our best defense. Even with the best preparations, a superflare would undoubtedly be a global catastrophe. The question then becomes, how do we recover? How do we rebuild in the aftermath of such a devastating event? The answer lies in our resilience, our ingenuity, and our ability to adapt. Local communities would need to be self-sufficient, at least in the short term. This means stockpiling food, water, and essential supplies. It means having backup power generation capabilities, whether through generators or renewable energy sources. It means fostering a spirit of cooperation and community support. The rebuilding of the electrical grid would be a monumental task, requiring global cooperation and resource sharing. But it's a challenge we can overcome. After all, we've rebuilt from wars, natural disasters, and pandemics before. A solar superflare, though daunting, is not insurmountable. The threat of a solar superflare underscores a fundamental truth. Our technological civilization, for all its advancements, is still incredibly vulnerable to the forces of nature. We've come to rely so heavily on technology, on the interconnectedness of our world, that a disruption of that scale could have profound and long-lasting consequences. Yet, this vulnerability also presents an opportunity to rethink our priorities, to invest in resilience, to build a more sustainable and robust future. A future where we respect the power of our star, even as we harness its energy. The Earth, bathed in the warm glow of the sun, is a picture of serene beauty. But beneath that beauty lies a stark reminder. We are but passengers on a cosmic journey, at the mercy of forces far greater than ourselves. The future, like the sun itself, is full of both promise and peril. We stand at a crossroads, a pivotal moment in human history. We can choose to ignore the warnings, to bury our heads in the sand and hope for the best. Or, we can choose to act, to prepare, to build a future that is resilient, sustainable, and adaptable. The choice is ours. Let's choose wisely. Let's use our knowledge, our ingenuity, and our collective will to ensure that when the next solar storm arrives, we'll be ready. The future of our civilization may very well depend on it. Let's not be caught off guard. Let's face the future, illuminated by the lessons of the past, and build a future worthy of the stars themselves.